Won't you stand by me? And darling, darling, stand.
Oh yes, wait a minute, Mr. Postman. Wait, hey, hey, hey.
Tiptoe through the window, all the windows of this world. He come tiptoe through the tulips with me.
The views expressed on the following broadcasts do not necessarily reflect those of KHLT, Take 12 Radio, or our affiliates. The opinions on this show should not be considered as medical, psychological, or professional advice and are those of the host, co-host, and guest. Take 12 Radio and KHLT Recovery Broadcasting are not affiliated with any particular 12-step fellowship. Now here are your co-hosts, Marv R., Bruce H., and the Monty Man.
Yes, indeedy. Herbert Carey, better known as Tiny Tim, was born in 1932, passed away of a heart attack in 1996 at a ukulele convention. He was getting ready to sing a song on his ukulele, and there he was. He was gone.
Really?
Yeah. So he died doing what he loves, you know? Yeah, Herbert Carey. So the people that we heard before that, of course, was Percy Sledge, singing When a Man Loves a Woman. You know who the second one was? Marvin Gaye. Stand By Me was the Drifters. Mr. Postman was I wrote it down here, but I spelled it wrong and I can't pronounce it. The Marolettas, and then Tiny Tim. Marolettas. It's amazing though, because when you look at the authors of these songs, and then you look at the people that re-recorded them, it's funny because my son said several years ago, I don't even remember what song it was. I think it was a song by Creedence Clearwater Revival, and he said, "Oh yeah, Michael Jackson did that song." I go, "No, actually, no, Creedence did that song." No, Michael wrote that. I go, no, he did not. People don't realize that there are many people that wrote music. Some never even performed it. Like John Denver wrote Lemon Tree and Mr. Tambourine Man and stuff like that, but he didn't perform those.
Yeah, Stand By Me was recorded by a few people.
Oh, yeah? Yeah, quite a few people.
Yeah.
So I thought I'd give you a wide range today, and I had to get Tiny Tim in there for Marv. Wow. You know, we used to laugh at that guy's voice, but what a range. My gosh. Very weird range, but a range. Well, the topic this week is how did we get here? How did we get? I've gotten some emails over the past couple of months, and I haven't actually talked about them until this point, but there's been some people that kind of wanted to know, what was Marv's story? How did he get here? What was Bruce's story? How did he get here? Because I don't think that Marv and Bruce or I were always the happy, peppy people that we are today, and bright, shining faces. I think that there was probably, not that every day's like that.
Still is.
Yeah.
I'm better today than I was yesterday.
Yeah, thank God, right?
Oh, boy.
We were just talking about that.
Yeah.
You know.
Right. About the stuff that's going on. You know, just, jeez.
Well, and Bruce mentioned it a few minutes ago. I mean, the stuff that goes on in our lives today, we're in wonderment why it's that way, because, quote unquote, we're Christians.
Yeah.
You know, we shouldn't
be.
It shouldn't be this way, but it is.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Don't you know who we are? Yeah. Why is this happening? You know. Yeah, so we're going to be talking about how did we get here.
There's a thing that I kind of believe in, that we are what we're becoming.
We are what we're becoming. Does that fall into the definition of sanctification?
Yeah, that in God's eyes, it's already done.
We're becoming who we already are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
To me, the real battle is what Paul talks about. I just read it this morning, as a matter of fact, that he presses forward. towards the goal. So no matter what's going on in our lives, no matter what, with tenacity, I think it's expedient that we press forward. And by the way, that's not easy.
No.
I think you're right.
Yeah. Keep moving. I used to have a sponsor that'd say, I want you to start sharing in meetings because if your lips are moving, you can't put a bottle in there.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Bruce?
Well, I think that being a Christian, I have hope today. I never did before. You know.
So what about those people that are listening right now saying, I'm not a Christian and I have hope?
Yeah, but I'm talking about eternal. You know, to looking towards eternity.
Eternity?
Not
just
our
today.
Kingdom things, not just today.
Not just today.
Knowing that what's taking place today is being used by God in a way that I'll be with Him for eternity. Marv has a deal he talks about in Romans, where it says all things work for good that are for those that love God and are called according to His purpose.
Right.
And I'd like to start hanging my hat on that too, because our circumstances aren't always. But just because we stop drinking doesn't mean the world stopped.
Yeah, thanks. Well, speaking of the world, last May, the DEA conducted Operation Polluted, not polluted, Pill-Looted, the largest pharmaceutical drug investigation of all time, where across 4 southern states, over 140 people, mostly doctors and pharmacists, were arrested for their participation in dispensing narcotics without a legitimate medical purpose. This practice is referred to as a pill mill. You've heard that before, right? A pill mill. It involves clinics, that's in quotes, that house a couple of prescribing physicians who they push out drugs in quantities that are just unheard of. Hydrocodone, OxyContin, benzodiazepines like Valium, to patients who pay cash money, usually around $300 per visit, in a mutually beneficial doctor-addict relationship, depending on how you view things. One Kentucky doctor caught himself a life sentence back in 2012 for prescribing 3.3 million pain pills throughout his career working at a pain mill. At his peak, he was the largest buyer of oxycodone in the United States. These pharmaceuticals eventually find their way to the black market, often sold by drug users who have a habit of their own to tend to. Such bursts may look like progress to some, but the pill mill battle is proving far too complex a problem where, once again, DEA raids, such as Operation Pill-Looted, which involved over 1,000 agents, appear to be a fruitless effort, as clinics dishing out oxycodone, hydrocodone are being dismantled. New ones continue to sprout up. But the newest pill drug du jour, isn't oxycodone. It isn't OxyContin, and it isn't benzodiazepines. It's I'm going to say this wrong. Well, I'm just going to say the street name. It's Suboxone.
Oh, Lord.
It is the latest narcotic being churned out by networks of shady clinics. It also happens to be the very drug that is supposed to help opiate users kick their habit. Once again, the problem is most visible in Kentucky, where a lot of the former pill mills morphed into facilities that dispense these prescriptions for Suboxone. Dr. Langfield, medical director for the state's Medicaid program, told Mary Mehine of Lexington Herald-Leader, after the passing of House Bill 1, which helped dismantle pain management clinics by penalizing pill-pushing doctors and requiring prescribers to use an electronic prescription drug monitoring system, the program was thought to have been, if not conquered, at least dampened. To the extent it has been, but still small minorities of doctors in Kentucky who operate under the pill mill method tarnish the name of the often useful detox and maintenance drug. Nearly 80% of the prescriptions of Suboxone in Kentucky were written by 20% of the state's 470 prescribers. Kentucky state officials also found the use of Suboxone increased 241% since 2012. The same year, a lot of pill mills churning out oxycodone met their demise. So they met their demise, and Suboxone went way up.
I think they ought to check the VA.
Yeah, you think?
You're talking about pill mills, and I'm telling you that there's a lot of people in the VA that they're giving this to, and they're putting them on maintenance programs with this.
The average drug seeker obtains prescriptions from 9 different prescribers. What we're seeing in Kentucky and all over the world is not a problem with drugs and chemicals, but how humans live with them, or in this case, dispense them. Recent academic investigations demonstrate the many clinical benefits associated with using Suboxone as a form of medicated assisted treatment for opiate abuse, such as less illicit drug use amongst users, above average retention rates, and because of its sealing effect with respect to respiratory depression. Fewer fatal intoxications occur in Suboxone users than with methadone users. So often it is that the medication can be at once a solid method of treatment and much sought after dope. Unfortunately, House Bill 1 did not address Suboxone, and its primary concerns were street drugs such as hydrocodone and oxycodone. Suboxone came on to the scene where a cash for pills market was already set, where practices like doctor shopping through networks of dirty or sympathetic doctors were in full swing. Once the DEA began to crack down on unscrupulous prescribers who handed out oxycodone prescriptions for cash, Suboxone was next in line, where it was inserted into a system that's already rigid and unprincipled, and licensed greed occurred. Evidenced by their prescribing habits, pill mill doctors show no interest in best practices. This minority of Kentucky doctors were prescribing the ceiling dose of Suboxone, roughly 32 milligrams daily, to nearly all of their patients. So they were prescribing the ceiling. They weren't starting out on low doses. For reference, when I was treated in Suboxone to kick a $100 a day per heroin habit, I was given 8 milligrams daily, not 32, which was enough to starve off some of the nastiest withdrawal symptoms. When it was time to wean myself off, it was a collaborative effort between my doctor and I. Not so anymore. For a doctor to hand a drug user a massive prescription for a Schedule III narcotic with a street demand in exchange for a $300 office visit it is an all too familiar modus operandi. It's essentially part of what brings us to today. In 2015, 44 people a day die from overdoses of prescribed painkillers. 44 people a day. 100 people a day die from heroin overdoses. So it's coming up. It's crazy. It's crazy. So once again, we've taken something that was potentially had some good ideas and maybe some beneficial help to people to wean off what otherwise would be a horrible, horrible detox experience. And we've gotten in there and we've twisted it around, and now it's being dispensed.
What I've seen happen is these doctors are so corrupt is they give them this stuff, this Suboxone, and then tell them to find their own level.
Yes, they do.
See? And so here you are entrusting it to someone that is looking for utopia.
Yep. And please don't misunderstand. I'm for anything that helps somebody detox.
Me too.
Because it's horrible. It's horrific. But the treatment centers that are worth their weight, they don't even release the people from their centers until they've weaned off the Suboxone completely. Astoria Point up in Astoria, for instance. You don't get out of there until you've been off that stuff for a good period of time. They just don't let you go. That's nuts.
Yeah. We're talking about two different things here. You're talking about people helping people to detox and getting off that. and people giving it to them, letting them
It's
control the amount they take to get hooked.
It's gotten perverted.
Yeah.
Like a lot of things.
I mean, really, this is...
You bet.
And, it's not like methadone, and at least I'm not doing heroin, and it's crazy.
Right.
Listen to what I'm saying.
I know.
That's crazy.
I know.
You're hooked. You're... Good gosh.
Oh, Lord have mercy. All right. So a little bit of recovery news and focus there for you guys. That if you think trading one narcotic for another, whether it's synthetic or not, without some professional guidance of people that really do have an investment in the recovery community, not just a doctor that wants to write you scripts. If you think that's safe, you got another thing coming.
Yeah, I'm just going to drink beer.
Yeah, I've knocked off the whiskey. I'm drinking beer now.
Yeah, because I get mean when I drink whiskey, so I'm just going to drink beer.
And it didn't seem to matter what I drank. I fell down. It doesn't. I switched all sorts of things. I kept falling down. And
when I drank beer, I couldn't get up because I gained too much weight.
There are people that need medication. We know that. There are people that need medication and abuse medication. There are people that don't need medication and abuse medication. There's a lot of medication going around, and we've been a world of medicators since the beginning. We really have. Don't eat that off of that tree. But I'm curious. Why are you curious? Because I need to medicate. Because Adam is being a butthead today. We have been rebelling against what is best for us since the dawn of time. And I'm afraid that we are rebelling ourselves right into the grave. 44 people a day. That sounds like a small number compared to some statistics. That's not a small number. One person a day dying from pain medication overdoses is too many. It's crazy. All right, we're going to be back right after this, and we're going to talk about how did we get here. And Marv and Bruce are going to share a little bit of how that happened when we come back. Don't go away.
Hey, what are you doing sitting on your blessed assurance? Be part of the solution. That's right. On Saturday, October 3rd, 2015, it's the 4th annual Hope Fest. Live music, local and national recording artists, guest speakers, community resource fair, food and vendor booths, and so much more. Where? Prescott, Arizona, at the beautiful Prescott Courthouse Plaza. Hey, get involved. Come join the Monty Man at the 4th annual Hope Fest as we address the immediate needs of those who are hurting and are in need of hope. Saturday, October 3rd, 2015. Don't miss out. Contact us at info@hopefestaz.com, or you can call 928-387-HOPE. That's 928-387-4673. Get involved. Visit our website, www.hopefestaz.com. Do it today. I dare you.
Free by the Sea is a drug and alcohol recovery center located in beautiful Ocean Park, Washington. This facility is amazingly gorgeous, but what's even more amazing is the integrity of the staff and the treatment provided for those wishing to recover from narcotic and alcohol addiction. The folks at Free by the Sea have a passion for presenting the solution to addiction for you or your loved one. To speak with an admission specialist, visit freebythesea.com or call toll-free 800-272-9199. This place is simply amazing.
All right, it's time for Take 12 Trivia. Brought to you this week by Origins Recovery Center, or Origins Behavioral Healthcare. And yes, indeed, you visit their website at originsrecovery.com. All right, here you go. You have 3 trivia questions and a bonus. This is ukulele trivia.
Oh, Lord.
All right, how many strings does a ukulele have? Here are your choices. 4, 5, or 6?
I'll go with 4.
4? What do you think, Marv?
4.
4. You're both correct. So we give you a bell. Don't you like that little bell? Little tinker bell? It beats the other thing. Okay. Question number 2. Where is the ukulele originally from? Hawaii, Portugal, or Spain?
Wow.
Do.
I want to say Hawaii, but I'm going to say Portugal.
Portugal? What do you say there, Marv?
I'll shoot for Spain.
You gonna shoot for Spain? Well, Marv, you get this. Okay, and Bruce, you get this. It is Portugal. The Portuguese brought it over to Hawaii. Yes, indeedy. Okay, which one of the following musicians has never played a ukulele that we know of? Don Ho, Garth Brooks, Elvis Presley, or George Harrison?
Oh, that's funny.
Who has never played a ukulele? Don Ho, Garth Brooks, Elvis Presley, or George Harrison?
George Harrison.
Okay. Bruce?
Huh?
Bruce?
I don't know. I'll just go with the first one.
Don Ho?
I
He's
know
from
who
Hawaii.
I know who he is.
All right.
I think it's funny.
It's Garth Brooks. He's never played a ukulele. Don Ho plays one all the time. Elvis Presley, of course,
Yeah.
we know he played a ukulele. George Harrison actually played ukulele in several Beatles songs, but Garth Brooks has never played a ukulele. All right, here is your bonus question. What does the word ukulele mean? What is it translated to in Hawaiian? These are your choices. The sound of the surf, sunset, or jumping flea.
Who comes up with those?
The better
Choices.
question is why? Why? Jumping flea.
Marv says jumping flea.
What the heck?
What do you say, Bruce?
Pounding surf.
You're going to say surf. Well, Marv, you are correct. It is jumping flea, or actually, more specific, lice.
Ooh.
Jumping lice.
Oh man, that's rude.
Now, who said, okay, I'm going to name this musical instrument a jumping flea of lice? Who comes up with that? You want to know what I come up with? Who
Tiny
comes up with
Tim?
that? Tiny Tim? I don't know. That's just insane. All right, there you go. And that does it for Take 12 Trivia this week. Boy, that was really useless. All right, we'll be right back right after this.
Hey, you! Yeah, you! It's the Monty Man from Take 12 Recovery Radio. And as a journalist, I get a ton of literature from folks to read every single year. And I simply can't get to everything. But there is one publication I never miss. It's the 12-Step Gazette. This is an award-winning recovery magazine for Philly, South Jersey, and surrounding counties. And is distributed nationwide and can be viewed even on the internet. Rehabs, detoxes, helplines, puzzles, classifieds, columnists, events, an hilarious humor page, and so much more. All found in the 12-Step Gazette. To get your copy of the 12-Step Gazette, visit www.12stepgazette.com today.
Boing. All righty. So how did we get here? How did we get here? I mean, you know, when you think about it, we're sitting here in the audio booth at Take 12 Radio, and you know, we're all going through some discouragement, some pain physically. Our health isn't the greatest, but for the most part, we certainly aren't anywhere where we were before. And God has been very gracious to all three of us. We've been through the ringer there and back. Some of us on several occasions. How did we get where we are today? I mean, let's start out with how did we get where we were when we first walked in the doors of recovery? I mean, what was going on? So, who wants to start?
I'll give it a go, and
Okay.
I'll keep this as short as I can. as a young man, I discovered alcohol, and a fellow that would buy it for me and my friend. We'd sit over at his house and we would drink, and I found myself getting so intoxicated that I'd fall in the hedge outside and be all cut up. And
Was that immediately?
Probably within a couple of weeks of drinking.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I just started that started to continue. My family would have to come get me and those type of things, and then I progressed from that to marijuana, and from that to pills, and from that to heroin. And it was just a steady progression with me. And I used heroin for 25 years, and I absolutely believed that I was going to die an addict. I mean, I was convinced of it. I struggled with my addiction for 10, 15 years of that 25 years. You know, doing this, doing that, running to detox centers, going to methadone clinics and trying to detox with methadone, going to another methadone clinic right behind it. You know, these type of things. Just really a hard struggle. Finally got off of that and was clean for a little while and went to methamphetamine. Now I'm on the other side, and I somehow convinced myself that I could just go to sleep and I'd be all right with that stuff. You know?
So you were on all the slow down stuff, and then you went to go chemical.
You bet.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there was I'll say it to just say that there was a huge sexual drive with that too, with this methamphetamine. And so I was on that for about 20 years. So that's, I give or take a year, okay, or so. And so that's about 45 years of addiction, practicing addiction.
Right.
In there was penitentiaries and all sorts of things, and 5 marriages and
Wow.
crazy stuff that happened all along that. And I had tried many things and they failed. And I was absolutely appalled by the church, you know, so by some things, other things that happened. So I walked into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, and somebody made an approach to me, and they gave me this method by which to take a look at myself. And I absolutely, God had did something at that point to let me see who I was and my inability to knock this off.
What was the behavior that was behind the consumption of these different drugs? Was it much more? Was it uglier after the methamphetamine started than it was before? Did it really get ugly then, or was it always ugly?
Always ugly.
Okay.
Yeah, it was
Just a different kind of ugly, right?
Yeah, and my life was ugly without it.
Yeah. That's a key statement right there.
There was a period of time where these things actually, I enjoyed them and they fulfilled me. But then they turned on me to cut me to ribbons,
Right.
like that boomerang that Bill was talking about with alcohol.
Right.
And I did lots of things to try to replace that, you know, like changing things up. Like people just to stop drinking wine and drink whiskey, or don't drink whiskey, drink beer, these type of things. I tried everything, or the methadone, all these things to try to help me. But anyway, what it did for me, and here's the key for me, I believe it took place. If somebody took me through the steps, they impressed upon me that it was the first time in my life was a chance for me to examine myself with God's help. So I did that, and it worked for me. But I have to say this. After I did the 12 steps, I knew there was something wrong.
So you just didn't put pen to paper, and after 12, everything was hunky-dory.
I went back, and I offered myself to God as my Lord and my Savior, as Christ as my Lord and my Savior. And I never did that before, ever, in my life.
Right.
That transpired through trying to grow in my faith, in and I did that. And I believe because I was allowed to see who I was and my inability to knock that off, that if it wasn't drugs, it was women, it was all sorts of things, that I needed a Savior. I needed God in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So I asked him, I think with the humbleness I'd never been able to muster before, with a contriteness, and he came and he entered into my life in such a way that he just flipped me over. And it's important for me to share that today.
Yeah.
That's why I'm sitting here in this room,
Right.
on this radio station, is because he compels me. It's such a transformation. And it's not that I never believed. I just didn't believe it would be for me.
Right.
See, you
Right.
could believe, but do you know? Can you walk with him?
Yeah.
You see?
And we hear people say all the time, I believe that's working for you, but I don't believe it can work for me.
Exactly.
And yet those same people will say, how do I get what you're getting? And then we tell them, but they don't believe that'll work.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think people don't believe it'll work for them?
Well, I think that's the contempt and the prejudice is the idea, and we're so discouraged and despondent from what's been taking place in our lives.
Yeah.
You know, and it isn't that people don't try, or I hear people all the time, they come in, they really wanted to stay sober, but they weren't able to.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the importance of having him in my life. Now, a lot of people believe that God did what they did for him. Me might be different, but I believe he relieved me of the obsession.
So you, before we go to Marv, you said something interesting in the beginning. You said that you had contempt towards the church. Were there people in your life before you entered Alcoholics Anonymous? Were there people in your life who tried to speak the same things that you eventually learned in AA?
Yes.
But you just weren't ready to hear it, or were they just clouded by, bad experiences, or?
Because of my contempt and my ideas and my own thoughts,
Yeah.
The views of people
Right.
and things, I didn't trust, didn't believe, I didn't want to hear it, you know what I mean? I thought that I could conquer this. I was consumed with trying to do what I thought I could do.
So what was the difference when you went into Alcoholics Anonymous and started participating in the process? What was the difference between that? I mean, surely you still had contempt.
Okay. A person showed me a method.
And nobody had showed you that before.
They didn't run from me. They didn't.
Okay. They didn't say just change.
Yeah, just tell me to knock it off.
Right.
They told me this. What if you can't knock it off?
Ah.
And somehow that made sense to me.
That's a different message than just knock it off, grow up, and stop it.
What if I can't? They said, what if you placed yourself in a position where you're beyond human aid? And they said, all we're asking is that you take a look at that and see if that is true. So I did that, and they taught me how to ask for his guidance through this thing. And I think that God did a wonderful thing for me. He opened it up and showed me the darkness, just a speck of what it was, of who I was. Mm-hmm. And that showed me absolutely my need for him. So now I'm approaching him differently.
Right.
And it was a process like Marv talks about. So all through this thing, I'm being taught, to humble myself. I think in Peter it says, to humble yourself under the mighty hand of God, for your adversary walks about like a roaring lion, seeing who he can devour. Yeah. So it taught me to do that. Before I made plea bargains, you do this, I'll do that, type of thing. There was no contriteness. I was directing God even in my prayers. Mm-hmm. And through this process and learning to grow, I see that I'm looking for God's will and asking for the strength to carry that out.
Yeah.
I think that is one of the most profound statements that Alcoholics Anonymous has.
Mm. Yeah, very well said. Well said. Marv?
Sir.
How'd you get here, man?
Boy, it was a maze.
It was amazing. An amazing maze.
A maze. Oh, boy. number one, by the grace of God,
Sure.
first and foremost. I was sitting here thinking, how do I encapsulate my story?
It's not easy, is it?
No. And then I think about that prayer. It says that we would understand rather than being understood. And part of my dilemma is, I guess maybe it's a little bit of fear, but that people won't understand.
Mm.
And I don't know why that's so important to me, because us guys have run into hundreds and hundreds of people that were in the same boat we were, But
Right.
so the way I started life, alcoholic parents, locked up in a trailer house for 3 days until I finally broke out.
How old were you?
5.
5. Locked up, you mean by yourself?
Yeah, my brother and I. They claim, the story is, that I kept shoving cornflakes down him because I knew he had to eat. And I broke out a window and went and got help. So then we were shoved around Minnesota and Wisconsin, and some of the memories I have about that, I don't want to get into. It's just good enough to say that that's what happened. And then for about a year, and then we were adopted by some very dysfunctional people.
Mm.
And by this time, I had discovered that I needed to be on the defensive constantly to protect myself.
So you were right into survival mode at a very young age.
Yes.
Yeah.
So then, stayed with those people until I was, let's see, how old was I? 12 or 13. Very abusive, mentally and emotionally. I ended up going to the children's farm home in Corvallis, and I lived there till I was 17. And there's all kinds of things that went on in between there.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But suffice it to say, by the time I was 17, I was thoroughly convinced that I was absolutely worthless. Hence, when the drinking came along, I couldn't get enough. From the very first time, I drank until I was down and blacked out.
So just drinking like a 6-pack isn't going to be enough to numb all the stuff going on in your head.
There wasn't enough.
Yeah.
They talk about the age of accountability.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure what that is.
I'm not either.
Exactly. It may be different for different people. But at some point in time, I realized that something was dreadfully wrong, and there was nothing I could do about it. And so the other part of my story is not only did I do unto others and cut out, but at the same time I had this huge idea that I was responsible for folks. I don't know how to explain it.
For their well-being?
Well, it was almost like thinking that I had the power to change situations for other people. Insane. It's insanity. It's what it is. Anyway, similar to Bruce, 4 marriages. It's a wonder. Unbelievable. My kids turned out the way they did.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to tell my story. I mean,
Yeah.
I without really getting involved. So let me bring it up to today.
Okay.
Or maybe even back when I first came into AA. Even that I did by the back door. I didn't know I was alcoholic.
Mm-hmm.
I was one part of me was responsible. I had to work. I had to take care of my family. I had to take care of the bills.
Right.
And I did that. But then there was the other part of me, the alcoholic, who was a binge drinker. And when I started drinking, I couldn't stop. So the way I came into AA is I married a woman who was an alcoholic.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And I was being a good guy. Oh, you're going to go to these meetings? Okay, well, I'll be a good guy and
I'll
support
you. Yeah.
And a couple of things happened I'll never forget. At that time, I had a good friend who was a pastor of a church, and I talked to him about AA because I didn't know that this was such a good idea. And so to shorten up the story, he just told me, he said, Marv, don't question it. It works. So I'm driving home. At that time, I lived in Jefferson, and driving down the freeway, and I'm thinking about this because the meetings I'd been to, there was nothing on the walls about Christ. And at that time, I was a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
And
Were you kind of hoping there would be, or
well,
kind of expecting there might be?
To me, it seemed like that should have went hand in hand.
Sure.
You know? So I'm thinking about this. How can this be, and stuff like that. It shows you how narrow-minded I was, by the way.
Right.
And then it seemed as though I heard this voice, and it was real simple. It said, "Know that I am God. Do not put me in a box."
Hmm.
And after that, everything was okay. I just accepted it.
Yeah.
So that's how I got in there. It took me 6 years. Yeah. 6 years later, it occurred to me, I may not be able to spell it, but I am one.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's when I started saying, hey, I'm alcoholic.
Was that difficult to verbalize that?
Not when I did it.
Okay.
It was difficult to come to that point.
Oh, okay. But to actually get it out and verbally say it, it was okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Go ahead.
So now I recently, got my 29-year chip. I guess the thing that's puzzling to me, sort of, is the fact that all this time I've never not looked to Christ. I probably didn't do it. What do I want to say?
Completely by the book?
Right.
Yeah.
I run wild with my own concepts. That's why I say a lot of times my understanding of God is limited by my understanding of God. And but now, today, sitting here, I've got a whole different viewpoint.
Mm.
I realize more than ever my need for Jesus Christ. I realize more than ever my missing the mark.
Mm.
According to what, for some reason or another, now it's different than it used to be. I realize that I really can do nothing without him. But what the dilemma is at the same time is all this stuff through my life has not been healed. I've still got this brokenness, this spiritual lack of spiritual brokenness. Let's put it that way. And so all of this stuff is still right there, not as traumatic as it was or anything like that, but it's there. I realize more how much I need Christ because that stuff is still there.
So when Paul says that I need to die to myself daily, there's a lot of power in that for you, because daily you recognize you're still Marv.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't do that either.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I might try.
Mm-hmm.
And prayer for me anymore is not just morning and night. I'm all the time.
Right.
Throughout the day. And I'm sure you guys do too.
Yeah. Yeah.
You come up against something, you say, okay, Lord, what now?
Yeah, pray without ceasing.
You don't wait till the end of your day to review your day. You're in your day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Bruce, you were going to say something.
I think the thing that amazed me is what Marv is talking about here, that when I recognized the fact that my solution to my problem, because life was terrible before I drank, and so when I stopped drinking, it was bad again. It was hard for me to function and function properly, that I was spiritually broken. And if I worked on that, if I went to God with that, okay, then the other would fall in line. See? And that's the way it worked for me, is that I tried to repair that by going to Him and offering Him into my life as my Lord and my Savior and accepting what He did on the cross. And as I grew in that understanding, in that acceptance, I started to heal, and He took away this desire for alcohol. Now, there's other things in my life that I guess the Lord still has, and I still have work to do, you know.
Other obsessions that haven't necessarily been lifted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I struggle with some other things, and with just, I think it's trusting Him in all areas of my life.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
It's what it is.
I hear you.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I live a life of repentance.
Do you guys ever get frustrated? Well, God, you removed the obsession to drink. Why haven't you removed the obsession in this area?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Kind of like directing God.
Yeah. Well, you did this. I mean, if it was good enough for that, why isn't it good enough for this, man? You know. You ever feel that way? All the time.
I think that because the truth of the matter is we're supposed to rest in His work and function out of that. When it says work out your salvation, I don't think it means to work for it. I mean, to work it out. That's work out what He's already done in you.
Yeah.
And that's where we fall short. We think that we have to add to that.
Yeah, it's kind of like somebody that goes to the gym and they work out. They're not working out to become a human being that's healthy. Many people are they're already pretty. Some of them are already pretty healthy, but they have to continue to do this, so they work out. And if they don't,
but see, we're supposed to be working out of what He done,
right?
Shape,
right, and that's that. And in there lies the difference.
Yeah.
And in there lies the learning to depend on the one you're praying to, not your prayers themselves. That I've talked about before. Because that was a hard lesson for me to learn. Because man, I thought here I'm getting up early in the morning. I'm doing my devotions. I'm going through all these motions. I'm doing my step work. I'm journaling. I'm blah blah blah, and those are all good things, and they're right things. But I was depending on my ability to do those things instead of the one that I was doing them for.
I did that.
Yeah. And then I wondered why I was so empty. I'd listen. I'd come in the studio back when it was, different than it is now. It was a garage, You know, I'd come in here and I'd listen to the Bible for an hour every single day. I wonder why I felt so empty.
Yeah.
You know, because I was getting ready. I'd brush my 2 teeth I have. I'd come in here and I'd prepare it, you know, and it was like all this stuff that I was doing.
When I started to depend upon my sponsor and these 12 steps, okay, and if I hadn't had a sponsor that seen that and was pointing out to me what the book was saying, that I was supposed to become God reliant,
Right.
not step reliant,
Not
and
sponsor
not
reliant.
sponsor reliant.
Yeah.
That he would show me how to have the kind of relationships that I were craving.
Yeah.
But I had to go to him first, you see, to rely upon him. And see, and that's really hard because I wanted to rely upon the steps and my ability to apply them in my life or someone that I could trust. But see, he wants to be first. He's not going to share his glory with the steps.
One of the greatest gifts my sponsor gave me really pissed me off. I was having a difficult time with somebody, and I kept calling him, and he wouldn't call me back. And so he lived in Sweet Home, and I lived here. And so the day came to go to the meeting up in Sweet Home. I said, Doug, what's the deal? And he goes, did you work it out? I go, yeah. And he goes, so who'd you work it out with? I said, well, God, I guess. He goes, right. You don't need me. He said, I didn't call you back because you were dependent on me. You kept calling me every time you had an issue. And I told you, you can't do that. Now, you know, in the beginning, he had me call him every day. And we did, you know, to start building some patterns of disciplines, you know, that kind of thing. But at some point in the step process, he had to say, you know what? It's time to cut the cord. It's got to be you and God. And that really irritated me because I thought, I haven't opened up to somebody like this in years, and I finally bleed all over the place and fillet my heart in front of you, and you won't answer my calls? And he was trying to get me to lean on God. And today I really see the value in that. Mm-hmm. You know. He also had the wisdom to know when to do that.
Then with your relationship with other Christians change.
Absolutely.
See?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, if you want to hear how I got here, you can go to take12radio.com and click on Monty Man's story. There's an audio and a PDF text form of that, too. So I'm not going to take the time on this show to do that. But bottom line, we're not who we were. We're new creations, and our spirit's new. But some of the old man kind of hangs around, right?
Yeah.
We kind of drag him around with us, and it's kind of stinky.
I think it's like Romans 7. Mm-hmm. I think Paul was talking about himself and his conversion, but he wanted to have the right thought, but he had the wrong thought. He wanted to do the right thing, but he'd do the wrong thing. Oh, who will save me?
Yeah.
But Jesus Christ. See, and so he kept his eye on the prize. But we dragged this flesh behind us, and that's the last thing that's going to be resurrected is this body.
Yeah, this stuff. I really don't want this anymore. I'm kind of fed up with my back and pain and my knee pain.
Yes, either we have to shed it or get a new one, or we're going to be, in this position.
So, Marv, it's something you do very, very well is speak to the newcomer. So, the person that's never heard this show before that's tuning in right now, we have an average of 29 new listeners every day.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so there's somebody right now listening right now that's saying, what?
Yeah.
What encouraging words would you have for them, Marv?
Well, first of all, and I do kind of think of the newcomer quite a bit because while doing this show, I realize that there's some things that are said that a new person is just not going to get.
It's over their head. Yeah.
And that could be, yeah.
Yeah.
So for the new people, I let me say this to you. Give yourself a break. Don't give up on the meetings. Don't drink or use, which you'll hear 100 times. one of the experiences that I have had and continue to have is that God puts people in my life. And it's usually hindsight before I notice it that they were there because God had rearranged and managed to put them in my life to allow me to change. So what I'm asking you to do is observe. Pay attention to what's going on around you. And you will see in the months to come, if you look back, I am positive in my own mind that God will put people in your life, and it's all about wooing you to Him. It's my personal belief, it's just an opinion, that the most important thing that God wants is a personal relationship with you as an individual, and He is going to bring that about according to you, according to your personality, according to what you've been through, according to what you can understand or don't understand. And He's going to do that through other people. Plus, remember on the walls of AA, the second tradition. I can't quote it word for word, but basically what that's saying to me is when I walk into a meeting, that God is in that room, and I can depend on God, not the people, to work through the people to teach me how to live life on life's terms. And that's just kind of the way I look at it. So if you're new, you're thinking about, man, you don't care for these meetings, or you don't like so-and-so and all that, look for the similarities, not the differences. Give yourself a break and keep going. Do not give up.
Bruce, how about you? What word do you got for the person who's brand new, just tuning into this show?
Yeah. If you, God's grace sent you to the Alcoholics Anonymous, and you're sitting there, to hang in there long enough to find out what this thing is really about. Do the investigation. For maybe the first time in your life, you'll be able to make a decision based on the facts. And I think the truth will set you free. Once you see what it is and what's going on with us, that we're broken people and we need help.
Yeah.
And it's there in those rooms. Look for the commonality that you see with the people and what it is they have, and then find someone that will help you go through this thing and take these steps that you might come to know God as your personal Savior, or Christ as your personal Savior. I'm talking about Christ.
Right.
So, yeah, it's a mind-boggling thing. I don't believe that we're adding to grace when we say that. I believe these are biblical principles applied in your life in a way that they're described, that they lead you to Him instead of relying upon them.
Yeah, good point. Both very well said. Thanks, guys. Thank you very much, Lee.
Thank
now
you.
I expect you to go home and look up Herbert Kari and memorize the words to Tiptoe Through the Tulips. It's always a pleasure to have you guys on.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, you bet. God bless you guys so much. All right, our email address is take12radio@comcast.net. There are 3 ways to listen to the show: our YouTube version, our Adobe Flash Player button, and our download MP3 link. You can choose whatever one you want. Please remember that it would be a really good idea to do something today that'll make the person you'll be tomorrow proud to have been the person you are today. That's always a wise thing. And listen, don't look for what's legal, what's right, what's fair. look for what's wise when making your decisions for the next 24 hours. Until next time, this is the Monty Man, along with Marv and Bruce, and we're wishing God's perfect serenity for you. Bye-bye now.
This has been a broadcast of Take 12 Recovery Radio and KHLT Recovery Broadcasting.
In the moonlight, will you pardon me and tiptoe through the tulips?